what up, everybody? Third show in a row, my computer acts up. So I'm doing this while I try to get that up and running. I'm going on my phone. I don't want to keep you guys waiting for too long. But Ayo, my friend, what's going on, sir?
Hey, man, happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
Anytime. I love talking Canes with you guys, man. So yeah, we got well, they're all big right now. I think every game is big, but especially this one. We got Duke coming up this weekend. Duke is a much better team than we all thought. And I think this is these next few games are a chance for Miami to kind of get back on track and get right and get, have a chance to go on a run and finish with at least a decent record. But you know what? Duke poses a bit of a challenge. I don't know. Have you had a chance to watch them at all?
Yeah, I actually got done watching the condensed version of that UNC game. They are a lot better than what their record shows, and they're a lot better than what they were last year or even a couple of years prior. But it's a whole new Duke.
Yeah, it's a whole new Duke, and I don't know if it's this guy's first year head coaching there or second year.
Second, yeah. One of the two. I thought it was first. I could be wrong, though.
Year, because I think David Cutcliffe just retired. So they've had quite the turnaround, like very quickly. And, they got a pretty accurate quarterback. They've got an explosive running back. But they've got a couple of areas of weakness that I think we can attack. I haven't watched the North Carolina game yet, but I've watched the Northwestern game, and I've watched most of the Kansas game, so I do have some film on them. But before we go into Duke, I wanted to touch on midseason grades for our team so far. Because if you can believe it, the season's halfway over. It feels like 3 days ago the season started.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, and I cannot believe we're already halfway through. But yeah, I wanted to, since we're halfway through, I wanted to kind of take a look at the team and see, where we're at, and which position groups do you think, their stock is up and on the rise, or you think their stock's on the way down and in desperate need of reinforcements? So we'll get a couple of obvious ones out of the way. Quarterback. Let's start there.
Ooh, that might be a tougher one than I thought.
Yeah, if you're going to grade the whole season. What have been your thoughts so far this season on TVD? Surprised? Not surprised?
Surprised in a not a great way. I mean, I kind of had a lot of my chips on him, where I kind of figured he would take that next leadership role and we would kind of have more of the Brock Berlin, Dorsey feel at this point with him, where we know he was a sound leader. We know who's running the offense. We know where the team is going to run through him, right? Success or whatever it would all run through him. And kind of hearing what happened kind of with the whole receiver thing and kind of the letdowns in the game, you kind of start questioning where he was at for that, even being benched. I didn't think I'd see that this year, is him being benched. So the last game, I'm really happy to see him turn it around. He could have definitely, kind of let that go, and he could have, folded under pressure. But the good thing is to see him start kind of handling himself again. So I'm really happy to see him getting his confidence back, and hopefully, I'll still buy my stock in him in TVD. Just because he's going to be on the rise. I mean, the dude's got all the attributes you need for a quarterback to be great. So I definitely will still buy in on him.
Yeah, I would agree. His stock's definitely on the rise. He still has a chance, I think, to go out this year and go to the draft. Whereas we were, there was a question a couple of weeks ago of not only if he'd be able to, if he'd be able to even be drafted coming out of Miami, if he'd have to transfer, if people were already talking about that. A lot of negative thoughts about this program after that Middle Tennessee game, but TVD's bounced back nicely. You got to give him credit. And it's the second year in a row now that I think the dude has responded well to pressure and responded well with his back to the wall, because he had his back to the wall last season against NC State. You remember that game, right?
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the best part of seeing like you said, he went from being what we considered the Heisman hopeful, and we wanted to see that pedigree, to not even draftable. I mean, that's a huge, gap, between the two. But I definitely do think for being where he's at right now and kind of like you said, he could have easily folded. I mean, look at some of the previous quarterbacks we did have. They folded and they left, so we could have easily walked back into the same rotation, the same type players, and he's risen right back to the occasion. He's gotten the team back under his lineage, and hopefully that continues going forward.
Agreed. I would give him a B so far this year because of how well he's bounced back. The last 2 games he's been stellar, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah.
All right. So instead of going through each position group individually, I think that's going to take too long. So I think TVD kind of covers the passing offense in general. What about the rushing offense?
Oof.
Yeah, not as exciting.
C minus. I mean, but we're also injury. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's ever gotten going. It hasn't really clicked since those first 2 games, and you really can't consider those first 2 games what you really want to base that off of as your baseline. So I just haven't seen the run game get there, where you think you see the flash, but then it really just doesn't really pan itself into anything. And we are extremely now more reliant on the passing game at this point. So, and it doesn't look like there's really an answer going forward at this point of the running game. So C.
I give it a C minus, D plus, C minus. But yes, injuries have definitely been a factor. And even with that poor grade right now, I think I'm very, very excited about the near future because you get Don Chaney back, you got Trevante Citizen back. I'm not talking eventually. I'm talking like next year. You get those 2 guys back.
Yeah.
You probably get Henry Parrish back. We'll see. He has eligibility left. Maybe Rooster. You might get this whole room back. Then, young guys like Inez Cooper start getting involved, start getting integrated into the O-line. Maybe Jalen Rivers comes back another year. Maybe Jonathan Dennis is a little more, Sagapolo is a little more ready to, develop into that starting role. Plus, you're going to bring in guys like Francis Maligoa. You're going to bring in guys like, I don't want to say Sampson just yet. We don't know where he's going. He's not committed anywhere, but at least not that I know of. But, you got all those guys and Frankie Tinalau and whoever else we got committed right now. I'm very excited for the future as far as, O-line, running back. But, yeah, right now, unfortunately, they have not made much of an impact outside of the Texas A&M game. That was like the one
agreed.
flash that they showed. And I think David Franklin agrees with this O-line injuries impacting the running game too. Better figure it out, though. Yeah, I heard Ja'Kai Clark should be available for Saturday's game, which is massive.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because him not being there, I think, really threw off the timing, especially in the fourth quarter when like fatigue and stuff like that starts to set in. That's when the false starts started happening. You know what I mean? So, hey, Flo. I know that guy. What's going on, man? So passing offense, pretty good. Stock on the rise. Great quarterbacks behind him coming. Rushing offense, not so much, but I think the stock is still high there. All right. How about rush defense?
Man, that's right now. That's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
I'll give that an A, just because one, there's one that I think it's one of the ESPN shows or ACC shows. There's one of those commentators that really doesn't like Miami at all, and they do the little helmet sticker that they do every week. Miami never makes it on there, but we made it on there this week with Messidor. And the look he gave as they were putting that sticker on was one of the best things I've seen. It's almost like watching Paul Feinberg, give Miami praise for a moment. It's like, I know you hate every bit of this, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So I really liked that our Messidor got in there, and I think they're deep, and I'm very excited to see their development going forward.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if Coach Cristobal wasn't so aggressive in the transfer portal on the defensive line? Because a lot of people thought with who we got at D-line, we're probably okay before he even brought any transfers in. Can you imagine if we just stuck with the same guys?
I think that's a huge part of the trust, the process of what's going on is we don't know everything that goes on in there. And I mean, there's a battle plan, and I think that's kind of the hard part for us to take in as fans is we actually have a very respectable coaching staff at this point, so we don't have to solely put everything that we see in front of us as what's happening, in the locker room. We can trust that if they're going out and finding guys, it's because it's needed at this point.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give that rushing defense about an A-. I think they've done a terrific job so far this year. Even with we know going in, I mean, this has been a weakness for a long, long time, not just this season. The scrambling quarterback, right?
Man, yeah.
Yeah. So that's been an issue for us. But you saw even in the last game, Mesidor on multiple plays, and not just Mesidor, a couple other guys. Nigel E. Kelly made a few plays. Leonard Taylor made a few plays. Keeping that gap integrity, not over pursuing and just letting the quarterback slip out and get a big gain on you. They're playing much more disciplined. They're keeping they're staying in their lanes, staying in their gaps, and doing what they're supposed to do. And at halftime, supposedly at halftime of the UNC game, the coaches really challenged that defensive line to start, to step it up and start making plays. And they did. They sacked the UNC quarterback. They sacked Drake May, I think 4 times in the second half in the last game, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, if you think about it, like for those final 2 periods of UNC and the first 2, really almost 3 of this last game,
I would say 3. Yeah.
Everything. I mean, the defense rose to the occasion, and like you said, it's all been backed by the line, and that's something we definitely haven't seen. Because if you remember, the D line would always be really well at certain spots, but we never had that like cohesive group that really could take over the game and would take over the game. It was flashes, right? When we had Rousseau, it'd be a flash. When Phillips would come, flash. But you would still have that outside guy, over here getting way. He's gone. I mean, look at the UNC game. That D line would do whatever they wanted to do, but when they went through, there was just holes everywhere. And I think, like you said, they're playing a lot more discipline, and that's going to really, I think, going forward, that's going to be huge dividends for preventing that mobile QB, which we're going to face this week, from really being able to dictate the game for us.
Yeah, and even with the lack of playmakers that we have at the linebacker position, at this point you got to give up for Corey Flagg.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
The dude, he's doing everything you can ask of him, honestly.
Yeah. And once you get, I feel like once you start getting a little bit more of the molds that, the guys are trusting each other, because it seems like that's the defense right now is right. Like it feels like the only issues we really have on defense at this point is people are trying to do too much and there's no communication that they trust each other, in the right time. It's like, I think you're going to go over there, but I'm going to lean over here just in case you don't. And then all of a sudden we're both burnt to the other side. So I feel like with cohesion will come that, I can trust my both sides of me at this point, but he's been a hell of a player. And I mean, for as much flack as he got over the last 2 years, I'm very happy for the young man.
He's improved tremendously. And a lot of it is because, a lot of people saying it's true. He's not super gifted athletically, but you can see the work he's put in. Even Ed Reed came out and talked about the work that guy put in. Mm-hmm. He made sure and singled him out when he said that. I think it was during the spring game they were interviewing Ed Reed. And with the reinforcements we got coming in, Popo Aguirre, Malik Bryant, you already got Wesley Basaint.
Yeah.
With the talented reinforcement we got coming in, if he could set an example and those guys can follow him and put in the same work, we'll dominate. That front seven is going to dominate.
Exactly. It always takes that little bit of the foundation of hard work will pay off down the road, but you don't want the 5-star linebacker to come in and then he becomes less and less over time. He regresses the whole time he's at Miami. Let that, Corey Flagg, where I'm not a 5-star, but I'm going to play like one, become that measuring, and that's how they create that baseline to move up. So that 5-star becomes, a second rounder, first rounder by the time they're walking out of Miami. That's what you want to see is that foundation being built. It's just not, like you said, we're excited for the future because we know it's coming. And then they're going to have that full year under, Underfeld and under, the coaching staff that we have. that's what you want to see, is really the progression coming forward.
Yeah. And I got to give props overall to the defense that it seems like the tackling has improved. It's not, I don't think it's where it needs to be quite yet. There was some missed tackles against UNC, obviously Middle Tennessee. I mean, that was just a disaster at all levels. But overall, I think we've tackled much better this year. I don't know if you think the same, but that's the way it looks to me.
I do. I just feel like, how do I say this a really nice way? I feel like, and this might just be how I perceive it, you ever feel like Miami guys just want to make the big hit to be on ESPN? So they go for the shoulder tackle?
There's one or two guys in particular that I'm thinking of, yeah.
It's like, dude, you know it ain't going to work every time. But they're like, you know what? I'm going to try it again. And it's a highlight reel. And it's like, stop worrying about the highlight reel, because the highlight reel is going to be for the other team if you keep missing these. But that's what it always feels like. It's highlight reel or nothing.
Like, yeah, no, they're trying so hard to make the big play, like Avante Williams. And we'll talk now about the pass defense. And by the way, did I get my grade? Yeah, I gave my grade. Rush defense A-. Stock also on the rise. We got a lot of young guys there. I cannot wait to see Nigel Lee Kelly develop. The freshmen on this team right now that are playing: Nigel Lee Kelly, Jaleel Skinner, Wesley Bassane. They're all starting to play a little more, if you notice, and they're all looking good so far. So excited about that. Birdstone.
I love the rotation going on. The rotation, I think, is going to come up huge. It's going to keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah. No, and these guys, the guys that are like in their first and second year, they're going to get the full benefit of being developed by the staff. Because the older guys, they're kind of already where, they're kind of capped where they're at. You know what I'm saying? It's the young guys that are going to get the full development, I think. Jimmy Dean, O-line has too many weak links. O-line has too many injuries is what it has.
They do.
But no, that's why Cristobal and Mirabal are here. Like, talent-wise, this is the worst it's going to be. They're just going to add to it and add to it and add to it. It's just going to get better and better on talent alone.
Yeah. And I think you see, like, in the last, even the last, week or two, I mean, how many 5-star, 4-star, offensive linemen from all over the country are decommitting and they're going somewhere else, or they're hitting the portal, Stars don't really mean a whole lot once you're there. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird when people bring up he was a 2020 5-star. Okay, but if he's been on the shelf, that means that there's, like you said, about the cap. He might have hit the cap. You don't know where a guy's cap is really at.
That's true. And it's usually the guys the 5-star freshmen that come in and contribute right away, it's usually at Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama. It's the coaching staffs that know what they're doing.
Right.
All right, so that's that is the rush defense. How about pass defense now? Obviously not as good. It's like the same as the offense. One's really good, passing great, rushing no good. Defense is the other way around.
I can't figure out the passing defense yet. I feel like they have moments where they gel together. They spark really well. Texas A&M, they were shutting down guys that really were supposed to be blowing them off the map. That was supposed to be one of those games where it was like, oh no, close your eyes every time they're going to drop back and pass, and Ivy showed up and everybody stuck to their guy. There was really no massive play that really kind of killed off the, passing game. And then the next week is Middle Tennessee. I can't figure out the defense. I mean, it's just like, the corners are an issue, or the safeties are an issue. It's just, it doesn't seem like there's communication half the time. But I do feel like this last game, I was watching them more of their pre-snap. And I do feel like the pre-snap has gotten way better. And if you can do it at a very loud, Virginia Tech, that should be able to bode really, really well going forward.
You would think at home that should work.
So you would hope.
We'll see. Yeah, I feel like the issues in the secondary have been purely like communication issues. It's guys covering the wrong guy, covering the wrong zone, thinking they have safety help when they don't. It's all been communication. It hasn't been just because the receiver was flat out faster than our corner. Maybe once here and there that happens.
Yeah. But our guys are quick in everything that they need. I mean, they start getting NFL, looks. You know what I mean? It's because they have all the tangibles you need physically. You're fast. You're not going to get burnt. I mean, it's just if you're burnt, it's because you jumped at the first sign of a short route and you jumped it, or like you said earlier, you didn't get the help and you don't have the help. It's mental mistakes, but I feel like it's all there, and I think that's what makes it frustrating. Is it's all there. It's just one little thing that they need to work on, and it's what they all do every day: talk.
Yeah. And it looks like they have. One thing I have noticed with this team, I don't know if you have, we're 6 games in now. It looks like if they're struggling with something for a game or two, usually they fix it. They address it. We weren't passing the ball enough, TVD, out of sync, we're running it too much. All of a sudden, it's the complete opposite.
Right.
So you can't say Coach Gaddis hasn't addressed it. He has. Then it's, turning the ball over, right? I don't think we turned it over once against Virginia Tech. And that's good. I like that they're, an issue comes up, they address it, but then, like with any growing pains that you have, something else pops up. Now it's the penalties. Yeah. That wasn't an issue before. So I am glad they're addressing things as they come. But like I've been saying for weeks now, and I'm sure you've been saying the same, this is a process. It's going to take a while.
Yeah. Just don't make the same mistake twice. That's just part of the growing pains. And like you said, it's nice to see that they're actually learning from their mistakes. Because we walked into many games last year where we just kept making the same mistake over and over and over again. Look at UNC's game. Do you really think we'd lose that game now with this coaching staff?
I don't know, man. I would love the UNC game. That's one of those that I would love to play that, like get a do-over or play that game later in the season. I think it would be a different result, honestly.
Yeah.
And you can't say that. Like in recent years, I wouldn't be able to say that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like had we played the FSU game last year again the following week, I feel like we would have found a way to lose again because of the coaching staff.
Correct.
But yeah, man, the UNC game is one that I would have loved to have gotten a do-over because it seems like we woke up at some point in the game, but it just wasn't enough. We kind of fell short.
And they really only beat us with 4 plays, and it's like if we would have stopped some of those plays early on, I don't know if we would have won the game, but I know we would have gave a better fight. That's what we really all wanted to see was a fight. And it's like if we would have had the better coaching staff, I think that's what would have stopped a lot of those, they would have stopped the bleeding way ahead of time.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know. It was a case of another bad start, which has plagued us for years.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got off to a great start against Va Tech. Hopefully we get off to a great start against Duke. I think that's vital. I think we cannot get off to a slow start against that team.
Yeah, that's going to be huge.
Yeah. But Diehard Diesel says, I'd like to see a game where we're hitting on all cylinders. I'd like to see a game where we play we play a full 4-quarter game, which I don't think we've done yet this year.
Not yet.
So that's the pass defense. Not so good. I give it like a C- on the pass defense. They've been very, very inconsistent. But it looks like they're kind of addressing things as they come. Daryl Porter Jr.'s back. I thought he had a really nice game.
He did. Yep.
The instincts are there. He was in on a lot of plays. James Williams in the first possession or second possession almost had a pick six. The ball went, he jumped the route and the ball went right through his hands. He's this close to making like a game-breaking play.
Yeah.
He knows where to be. The talent's all there. He's just got to make the play. And then Avante, I think he's going to see more of the field.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, he did make the mistake. He almost got burnt. Mm-hmm. And rather than giving up, which a lot of people do, if any game you watch, where if you get burnt, you're just not even going to run out that play. And he continued on, and he forced that fumble. I mean, that was a huge turning point of that game because they were marching on us very well in that first drive.
Mm-hmm. They were marching on us and until they weren't. And then we dominated for 3 quarters.
Yeah. But that's the thing you got to do at that kind of stadium is you got to take that, you got to pull all that air out.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did. So, all right. So that being said, have we graded everybody? Oh, I forgot one. And one unit that I think deserves a lot of props and has done very well this year, except for the one disaster game, special teams.
Ooh.
Special teams has looked nice this year. I give them like a B+, A-, honestly. Borregales has been very solid. He's only missed 3 kicks this year, and 2 of them, one of them was, I think, like I forgot how long it was at A&M that because he missed one at A&M, right?
Yeah, I
My
thought
memory serves me right. He missed one
Yeah.
at A&M, but it wasn't an easy kick. It was a long one in front of 100,000 people.
40 was it 50 or 48 or 50?
It was
I
like
can't remember
upper
if it
40s.
was 12.
It was not an easy kick. And then the one he missed against UNC that everybody got on him for, that was a 53-yard kick.
Right.
Like the dude has made pretty much all the makeable kicks.
Right.
Like inside of 45 yards. So he's made all his extra points. Kickoff coverage, punt coverage, for the most part, I think has been good.
Yep.
You know, we've had a few nice punt returns this year. The one by Burchard that got called back against UNC, absolute BS call, in my opinion. Right. I was at the game. We're all talking to each other in the crowd, like, who was the flag on? We're watching the replay on the scoreboard, like, we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So, like, it was like a blindside hit or something. Everything looked legal. But
it did. When you can't put especially with the ACC, don't ever put the game in the refs' hands. It'll never go Miami's way. I mean, we can have the cleanest slate. We can do the most humanitarian awards and volunteer hours and all that. But when it comes down to it, those refs ain't going to ever change their mind about Miami.
Graduate 150% of our team.
Yeah.
We don't have an arrest off the field for 27 years in a row. Not going to change.
Not going to change. They're still going to go buy the Catholics and convict shirts first chance they get.
Yeah. But this has been an issue since the Mark Richt days, because I think he pointed it out in a press conference that we get called for holding, right, in every game, 4 or 5 times a game probably. And that's fine. Holding is going to happen. It's part of the game. I don't know if you ever, played organized football with the shoulder pads and everything. Even if you played like a season of organized football, holding happens, I would say like every other play. So a jersey gets pulled.
Yep.
It happens every play. So it's one of those penalties that, like, if the ref feels like it, he can, pick out a guy like, oh, I saw a grab there. And, it can happen at any time. The fact that our opponents never get called for holding, and I'm not exaggerating. If you're, if you're seeing my page for the first time and maybe you're not a huge Canes fan, you think I'm exaggerating. No. Watch the game this Saturday. I can almost guarantee you that Duke will not be called for holding one time.
Unless it's like blatantly apparent where he's got like 2 hands, he's grabbing the guy all the way down. There might be
guy's trying to run away and he's got him from behind.
It's got to be bloody. Like, it's got to be the worst holding ever for them to call it. Like, I think there was one time I was reading through, it was like the cleanest games that are like anybody in the ACC has is against Miami. It's like
miraculously
game. It's not a clean game. The refs just won't call anything. It's like the least penalized they are. And it's like the next week they do the same thing against whomever, and it's 14, holding calls later. It's like, well, they didn't have any against Miami. Well, why? You know what I mean? It's I honestly always will say there's bias. I'm just going to be very honest with it. Is after this long of dealing with the same thing over and over again, bring in some new refs. But even then, I don't think it's ever going to really change. But if you did notice with the Texas A&M game, we didn't get called for anything. It makes it tough to be like, well, ACC versus the SEC and reffing. They didn't call it. They let them play, and that's what made the game a lot more even.
Mm-hmm. If you watch the North Carolina game, they got away with a lot of holds. North Carolina got away with a lot of holds.
A ton.
Yeah. There were a few that I noticed. I remember yelling a few times during the game. The discrepancy in the numbers between UNC and Miami last week was typical of these officials. Does Morrow file a complaint on the ACC on Monday after these BS games? I don't know. I'm pretty sure Mark Richt, when he was here, filed a complaint. And it fell on deaf ears.
Right. Because what was it going to really do? I mean, you're filing it to the people that are hired, the people that you're complaining about. They're just going to go right to the incinerator. like it's like the suggestion box that goes right to the fire pit. It's like they're not going to care.
Yeah. No. And the one, everyone saw this one, the one catch by Mallory that that linebacker was tackling him basically before the ball got there. No flag.
None. Of course not. I mean, there's been, and the bad thing is it's so common in Miami games. That's why, like, I think I said on Monday, Miami has to play over and beyond clean to win games. And I don't know if maybe that's a frustration that the team doesn't really understand yet until they get to like their third or fourth year. But it's like you have to be sound for every play, because if you give that ref one chance to call it on you, he will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't feel like they're completely trying to make the other team win, but they damn sure don't want to see Miami win. I mean, it's just very apparent at this point that they are who they are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? We've known this for years since the Big East days. Since the Big East days, they've done this when we were dominating. I remember being at the Orange Bowl and they would make calls on us that were just like, are you serious? Like what? I don't want to curse right now, but what the was that?
It's almost like you're kind of surprised at a point, because you're like, how are you guys going to make it out of the stadium with all these fans? Like,
I remember a game. This was and I'm going off on a tangent. I gotta get back to Duke, but I'll tell you this real quick. The wide left game in 2002 against FSU. I was at that game, and during the comeback, there was a play where Dorsey hits Roscoe Parrish for like a 60-yard bomb for a big first down. We needed it. Our offense needed a spark at the time. Makes the catch. Place is going crazy. They call it back because of a chop block, right? If you know what a chop block is, it's because one guy has you up high and somebody else comes and blocks you low, like takes your legs out. That's a chop block. The way it actually happened was there was a D end for FSU kind of coming around the edge. One of our blockers kind of misses him, and then the running back after that comes and misses him as well. That's what they call the chop block.
It always will be that way, man.
It was one of the most horrendous calls I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, that's what are you going to do? You got to play them and the refs.
Correct.
But anyways, got a few minutes left here. I'm going to be on for like maybe 5-10 more minutes with you. So let's talk Duke. You told me you watched some film. I watched some film. You watched some film. I still haven't watched the North Carolina game yet. I heard they got robbed. I want to see what it was that happened. But this is what and tell me if you agree, and let me know what they do that maybe scares you a little bit, and what you think we can exploit. This is what I'm seeing. On offense, it's a lot of window dressing. It's a lot of sending guys in motion. Quarterback's very accurate, like I said. So if you're open, he's going to hit you. And it's their O-line. It's very scheme based. It's a lot of pulls. It's a lot of double teams and things like that. A lot of zone read. It's a very modern offense. They're very well coached. They do their job. But like most Duke teams, they're not very big up front. So you're going to have a size advantage a lot of the time against them. You're probably going to have a speed advantage. I think their corners we can absolutely attack. I don't think they're going to be able to hang with our receivers. We might get Jacoby George back for this game. We should hopefully, God willing, we'll have Will Mallory to, line up against, mismatch with their linebackers. I think we can attack their secondary, and if not, either get big plays or at least force a couple of PIs and get some big chunk plays that way, and then use that to open up the run. I think that's where we can burn them defensively. It's just eye discipline. We, all this stuff, all these pre-motion guys, don't let that distract you, because a lot of the time they're just going to hand it off up the middle. You gotta stay with the ball, basically. That's what I see. It's just a matter of us playing a very disciplined game, which, makes me very nervous. But let's see how hard this staff has worked the last couple of weeks. It will show, and how prepared we are for this game. But anyway, you have the floor. What do you think about this game?
I think you kind of nailed it. Like, I think they do try and get you to move and see what you're running. I think the QB is a very talented QB, because if he senses danger, he takes off. But the way he takes off, he is not scared to get hit, and he can take a lot of hits during the game. There was a couple of hits he took. I thought he was done. I was like, oh, I'm not throwing the ball the next play. Now, I will say, if he does take a major hit, they usually call a passing play next, and he usually can't throw the ball for that one play. So I think they were in the first or second quarter and they got down to the goal line. He took a massive hit to get down there. They ran a short passing play that probably should have been 6, and he basically threw it right into the ground. I mean, you can rattle him, but it's if he gets that momentum of taking that big hit of a first down, they all rally behind him, and he is very much their vocal leader. You can tell that they hang on him, and the running back is very sound.
Mm-hmm.
He's very patient when he runs, but he will, like you said, he will exploit us if we're shifting one way or if we're too aggressive to one side. He'll just quickly move to the other direction. Because I think he kind of knows he can't rely on his offensive line that much, so he kind of makes his own path. Receiver wise, I think they're kind of surprising, but their corners are just like ours, where I feel like they can get burnt, but they also can catch up. So hopefully that's not like one of those 50-50, type deals. But otherwise, I think the defense it's going to be like the UNC game. It just with a little bit better of a running game. Like you said, it's going to really come down to discipline. And that's really what Duke is really doing well at is they're patient. They're going to move around, but they're going to move to where they need to be. And that's it. They don't need to beat you by, throwing you down to the ground or, beating you to the sideline. They just want to get right to where their guy needs to go. And that's it.
Love Negas's comment. If you're not in our Discord chat, you wouldn't get that. But AO posts a lot of how can I describe it?
A lot of gifts for whatever reason, but the birds with arms always make me laugh.
A lot of bird type of gifts, like pigeons with huge biceps. Like it's really weird. But
they're hilarious for me. I don't know why.
They're funny.
I have the sense of humor of like a 5-year-old. So.
Oh no, you fit well in that chat then.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, we got this Saturday's a big one, man. We win this one, we get to 4-3.
Yep.
Had Duke not gotten robbed and won their game, like I said, I'm going to go back and watch it and see what the hell happened because I know everyone's talking about it. But man, if they had won that game, they would have been 5-1 going into this one in first place in the Coastal.
Yeah.
And we would have had a chance to take that first place from them. But that's fine. We're still early in our ACC schedule. We only have one conference loss. That's the good thing.
Yep.
I think unless UNC just goes on an absolute crazy run and just goes undefeated in the ACC, which that's not how the ACC works usually. Unless your name is Clemson, everyone kind of beats everybody.
Yeah.
So
and they have major issues that, I mean, yeah, they beat Miami, but like you said earlier, I mean, I feel like if we ran that game back, I don't feel like it's the same game. I feel like if you had the confidence that you really needed to have at that point, I feel like we get the dub out of that. That's like the hard part is I feel like we beat ourselves. UNC really didn't beat us, but I do feel like they will get beat. But the only thing with that is Miami has to be ready for that. When the pressure's on and you have a lot at stake, are you going to rise to the occasion or are you going to fold? And we've seen many times before, especially in that 10 in a row season, we fold, when everything's on the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mark Stamper saying if we have to run the ball, I would bring in Ja'Cory. It gives us a two-way go. It could surprise Duke and maybe have them pass because they expect them to run.
Yeah.
I love that package that Gaddis brought in.
Yeah. Nice.
That third and short package because pretty soon he's going to pull up and throw one.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. And another reason I like it is, dude, even as a freshman, I thought, Ja'Cory's probably going to have to spend a year in the weight room and put on weight. And he'll do that. But, man, he's tough to bring down.
He's huge. I've never seen people kind of turn and it was almost like the middle linebacker turned, just kind of didn't want to take the full on impact. But yeah, he's a big dude, man. I didn't really realize how big he was until he was in that game. I'm like, okay, He's going to come in there and let him run a little bit of that wildcat a little bit longer.
He's not a fake 6'4".
No.
And what I mean by that is not like, 6'4", but really he goes to the combine and then it's like, no, he's like 6'2.5". No. The dude is every bit of 6'4", maybe even a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And he's just going to add more weight to that frame. But man, yeah, he looks like big and he looks like wiry strong. Like he's just going to spin off you if you hit him and he's going to get 5 more yards. But I was very, very impressed with that. And he's going to, if Cristobal has shown one thing, is if he gives you a chance and you make a play, your role will increase.
Oh, yeah. Earn it.
I have noticed that.
Yeah.
Your role will
you like to see that, too, is that hard work will pay off. We're noticing,
Yes, absolutely. But anyway, like I was saying, look, every year, it seems like every year we have a chance, like even if we dig ourselves a little bit of a hole, we have a chance to dig ourselves out of it in the ACC. Because like I said, unless you're Clemson, everyone's beating everybody. There's a lot of parity. You always have a chance. And unless you fall like 3 or 4 games behind, you always have a chance.
Yeah, and they look suspect this year too. I mean, look what's coming up for them this weekend. That ain't going to be an easy game for them either. I'm going to be very interested to see how Syracuse and Clemson pan out this weekend.
Ooh, that's a good one. Man, the Atlantic looks so much better than the Coastal. There's like 4 ranked teams in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, big one this Saturday. Hope we get the W. I don't want to give my prediction just yet. I like to give it a little closer to the game once I've, the whole week's gone by. I've taken it all the tape. We're like a 7.5, 8 point favorite, something like that, something crazy. Which, I saw that and I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know where Vegas is getting that. How do you feel about that?
I'll kind of take the word of my co-host, and I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid again. Like I'm gonna go for the win. It's so hard for me to pick against Miami. And it's like, I just can't do it at the end of the day. I don't think we're going to cover the points, but I definitely, exactly. Now I'm a cheater. But, it's one of those games where I feel like it's a must-have game. Every game going forward is a must-have. And it's not so much of for the record and for, the bowl at the end of the year. For me, it's more of the momentum. Get fans back excited again. Get all the momentum that we had preseason. Get that whole vibe back. I feel like that losing streak lost so much momentum that we're kind of in the wait and see mode. I feel like you can break off a 2-win streak and a 3-win streak. I feel like you'll get all that back in the house, where that'll make people excited to go to the games. That'll get the energized the stadium. That'll energize the players again. And I mean, we saw, over this Tennessee and Alabama game, crowds matter. I mean, look how many false starts and, they rattled the kicker at the end. That comes up huge. And that's what we really need to see. And that's what you really want to have in a college football experience.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'll tell you, I'll leave you with this. We beat Duke, we beat Virginia, and go 5-3 going into the FSU game with some serious momentum. That game is going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's all you really need. If you can win this game right here and just have that momentum in, especially as they just hit the 0-3 streak, they're kind of right behind us in that momentum where half their fan base is like, nope, we're still going to make it to the playoffs. Half the other part of their fan base wants to know how much a payout to get rid of Norvell is going to be. So, I mean, they're definitely in the same scope we're in again, where it's not, oh, we're going to go playoffs and Miami's way down here. It's no, we're right here again. I don't pump those brakes a little bit, but I feel like, that FSU game is going to come up huge this year.
Can't wait, man. Well, anyway, Ayo, thank you again for coming on.
No problem.
As always, I appreciate it. And go catch his and Lex's show on Monday nights. You guys did it yesterday, right? The Average Canes Fan Show? Yep. All right. Go check that out. As always, guys, it's all about the U. Go Canes. Have a good night. Let's beat Duke this weekend.
That's right.